I want to take a few moments and share some Havana, Cuba photography tips. Been here for a couple of weeks. We've had a fantastic guide for that entire time. So this knowledge is coming from my experience working with a guide and just generally walking around the street, enjoying the culture, the people, the photography opportunities. Let's start with a few don'ts. Do not photograph the police. Do not photograph people dressed head to toe in white with colorful necklaces. Although they may make good photographic subjects, they are in a year-long religious initiation and no photos are allowed. And I think this goes without saying, but anytime you travel overseas, and I think most of the people going to be watching this are not here in Cuba, don't be a jerk. Don't just stick your camera in people's faces. You're in their place where they live, their home. Don't treat them like animals in a zoo. Start with conversations. Hello. Very few people speak English here. That is growing, but still, you should learn a little bit of Spanish. And if you'd like to take their photo, you could ask just that.
¿Puedo tomarte una foto, por favor?
If you know a little bit more Spanish, feel free to strike up a conversation. And if you get comfortable, don't hesitate to ask to see their home. As I've said on the vlogs that I've produced while I've been on these trips here in Cuba, multiple people have invited us into their homes, and it's been just an amazing opportunity and just a really nice, kind, generous thing for them to do. And in exchange, you should offer something. Could be a few kooks, that is the convertible unit of currency for tourists here in Cuba. It could be some stickers. Pens are really valued here as well. Yeah, just a simple pen. People in the markets love those. So if you are out and about photographing, not just trying to get into people's houses, but in the market, giving pens as a gift for pausing for a moment out of their daily job, that's a nice thing to do. Stickers are great for kids as well as candy too. Now, a handful of people on this trip brought the different Instamatic cameras, and those are a huge hit. It's really nice if you're asking somebody to pose for you for a moment for a picture, then to be able to give them one of those pictures you just took. And the kids love it, adults love it, the characters in some of the more touristy location that you pay to photograph, it's a nice gesture for them as well because, again, they make their living getting photographed, but so very rarely do they actually see any of the pictures that get taken. If you want a guide for photography while you're here in Havana, Cuba, I highly recommend the folks from Fototeca. They're right in Fountain Square, kind of in the heart of Old Town, and you can hire them out for a morning, a day. Multiple times we've gone off for walks with them. That's offered further access than many of us would get otherwise with our limited Spanish, and they kind of know the city a lot better, so that's a great opportunity as well. Now, a couple of tips about locations. So there's really no shortage of photo opportunities here in Havana. Just about everywhere you look, there is something cool to photograph, either the people, the cars, the colorful buildings. Right now I'm looking out over the water here on Malecon Drive. It's all gorgeous, but if you really want kind of the most authentic Havana experience, I would say stay somewhere near Central Park and Prado Avenue. You'll also see Prado Avenue listed on maps as Paseo de Martí, and that runs by the Capitol. It runs by Central Park, I just mentioned, which is a very small park, nothing like New York Central Park, but where some of the best, most well cared for American cars hang out and of course want to give you rides, not the cars themselves, but their taxi drivers. So that's fantastic photo opportunities there. Plus, you should go for one of those rides. It's a lot of fun. And that whole avenue, Prado Avenue, takes you down to the waterfront in Malecon. And it is a wide avenue, lots of people hanging out, lots of Cubans hanging out, playing chess, just kids play sports, rollerblade, offers a lot of photographic opportunities. Early in the morning, you can catch just individuals with a very empty feeling avenue. And later in the evenings, it's a very hustle and bustle place. And just along that avenue, there's fantastic buildings, some of them restored, some of them very much badly in need of restoration, but all of that is great for pictures. The plan is to restore all of those buildings. So if you're watching this a year or two after I've produced it, you may have less of the kind of old run-down buildings if you want to capture those. But really, you just have to go a few blocks to the left or right of that main street and Prado Avenue, and you will find fantastic back alley opportunities all over Havana. I've been in those at night and at day, always felt very, very safe. People have been friendly. And the few times I've gotten turned around, you just ask Central Park or Obispo Avenue, and people will point you in the right direction. Now, Obispo Avenue is very cool. It is a car-free avenue, very narrow alleyway. It is more touristy. You find less of that kind of authentic Havana. There's lots of good restaurants there, though, lots of shopping if you want to do that. And that runs from all the way down at the waterfront of the kind of Arms Square, which is a very historic, restored area of Havana, all the way up to Central Park. So that's great to walk. But again, you get off that 1 or 2 streets over and you'll see how the people of Havana really live, especially in what I call the old Havana areas that have not been restored in 30, 40, 50 or more years. Fountain Square I mentioned, Cathedral Square, Arms Square, that gives you a taste of all of the restored and historic avenue, Obispo Street as well. Sunrise and sunset can be photographed from the Malecon. This is the seawall that runs this whole stretch here from, I'm down at the Hotel Riviera right now, all the way past the embassy up to the Maximo Gomez statue, which is a great place, and the Museum of the Revolution. So that stretch is also great, kind of wide open space, a lot of people playing soccer there and hanging out, and so you can catch kids playing there as well. And the Museum of the Revolution is a fantastic photo opportunity as well. I mentioned along the seawall of the Malecon for sunrise and sunset. Moro Castillo is also a fantastic place to see the city from day or night, especially night. And every night at 9 p.m. they have the cannon shot ceremony. That's a lot of fun to watch. If you really want the best view of the ceremony and the city at the same time, you come on into the castle, pay the extra kook to go up the ramp and onto the roof, where you can then shoot across and get a great view of the ceremony. That 1 kook also comes with a free drink. Right across from Central Park is the Marti Theater, and that's lit beautifully at night. And the Capitol, it's being currently restored and very dark, but still a gorgeous building, and they're getting close to finishing the restoration on that. It will be a great photo opportunity. I do encourage you, especially photographers with cameras up to your eye, often watch your step. There is lots of nasty things to step in on the back alleys, and lots of holes in the sidewalk, crumbling bricks, and slippery marble. Multiple people on this trip have had slips and falls, some a little bit more serious than others, so you really do want to be careful and watch where you're going. Now, I shot for most of this trip with a 50mm lens on a full frame camera and was very happy. That is a fantastic walk around focal length in Havana, I found, and of course that is a really nice people portrait lens as well, or that focal length is great for portraits. So that's great. You could go for a wide angle and kind of capture some of these buildings, but more importantly, a wide angle can be a lot of fun for getting up close to the cars. David has some great examples of that. Or you can go with a telephoto for those sneakier kind of people shots on the street photography without having to ask people for permission as much. But people are fairly aware of cameras, and they'll perform for you if you're not careful. And so that brings up another tip. If you see a subject coming up, especially a person, start to dial in your settings, guesstimate what your settings are going to be even before you bring the camera up to your eye. You're going to get a more authentic kind of reaction from the person in those first couple of seconds of the camera coming up to your eye and focusing on your subject. The longer you take to fumble with your settings and get them right, the stiffer they're going to be. And this is pretty much true of anywhere, but I've seen it here especially. And the more posed their shot's going to feel, and it's going to lose some of that authenticness. I think that's pretty much all of my tips, except for in those Arms Square, in the historic district, there are a lot of characters that are willing to have their photo taken. The statue people, the women dressed in bright colors, the guy pretending to be a cop. In all of those cases, they do expect money for photos. So if you take one, you should give them the money. They're making their living, and they're there because somebody else has made it possible by paying them in the past. So you should pay them to continue that forward. I think that's it. This city, as I've said, if you want to see more of what we've seen on these trips, you want to get some more sense of what this place is like, I'll put the link to my Cuba photography vlogs down below. There are 4 of them. And I came here with McKay Photography Academy and had a fantastic time. Those trips are always awesome, and they have been fantastic here as well. And we are talking about returning in the not so distant future. We met many Cubans that are excited about the increase of tourism, the increase of Americans coming, but also some concern about what will Cuba look like in 3, 4, 5 years. I'll be honest and say I don't see these back alleys changing anytime soon. There is just an immense amount of restoration that needs to happen. But Cuba certainly will be changing as we move forward in the future, and we'll be returning here sooner rather than later. And if you're interested in being on one of those trips, I've got a link right down below where you can drop your contact information and be on the early list. These Cuba trips here that the McKays ran sold out extremely quickly. Most of their trips do. So if you are seriously interested, you do want to be on that list. Have you been to Cuba? Are you a Cuban? Do you have any additional tips, tricks, or thoughts? Really, I'm just mostly talking about Havana, and even that I'm talking about a pretty small area. There's a lot to the city that is fantastic. You can even go up to the college, and there are some fantastic long alley shots from up there as well. So a lot of opportunities, but I'd love to hear tips and tricks from folks that I just told. You can leave those right down below. And give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. Gracias.